are your role models? Who are the people that you think are out there really making and driving change in the sector, do you think? Or in the way of kind of, I mean, EDI is a massive area, but if you would talk about what your focus has been on sort of global majority and you know, repertoire and making something that is accessible and inviting for a broader range of people. But who are your people that you might look up to, and what are they doing that you think is
Yeah.
exciting?
Well, I mean, my first sort of trumpet hero has then sort of gone on to be my sort of general music hero. Is I mentioned him earlier as Winter Marsalis, and he's still doing fantastic work now in trying to like diversify music as a whole, and especially like professional level playing, trying to make it as sort of welcoming and inclusive and like current as possible. And I think he's someone who has sort of made a career sort of out of, originally from just being a fantastic jazz musician and a classical musician. So obviously, playing music that isn't particularly current, but has managed to sort of, not only sort of change himself, but also all the people who follow him into championing sort of new compositions all the time and sort of bringing in different influences into sort of everything they perform. So yeah, he's sort of definitely one of my biggest heroes, and has sort of become a hero for even more reasons, sort of as I've found out more about him and I've sort of gone through my playing career and that sort of thing. Also, Chichi Nwanoku, who founded and runs the Chineke Orchestra. She is a fantastic and sort of monumental force who just seems to drive change. It looks like she does it so easily, and I know that it's not easy, but she manages to make change happen quickly and well and get people on board. And then I guess sort of my other heroes. So my trumpet teacher while I was at Conservatoire, Alan Thomas, he was my teacher from my first year all the way until I finished. And so he was always there through my journey of just wanting to be a trumpet player, to sort of wanting to sort of make my programs more diverse, and then trying to start my own orchestra and all that sort of thing. And we still talk quite often, and whenever, because he's got a huge trumpet playing career, but also a lot of education work and sort of putting together programs for like young brass musicians. And I think he's definitely one of my heroes, because I think he saw sort of through my journey how important that would be for other brass musicians, or all musicians. So he's always trying to make sure that his programs are like sort of as accessible and like diverse as they possibly can be, and that everything's as inclusive as it can be. So we're always talking about what repertoire might be cool for sort of a group of young sort of primary school brass musicians to play. So yeah, I think they're my sort of three main heroes.
So I just wanted to ask you about because you're based in Birmingham, and you've expressed to me in other conversations about wanting underscore to really take off in the Midlands. And why do you think it's important for underscore to be based somewhere like Birmingham or in the West Midlands?
Well, I think Birmingham as a city has like the most sort of ethnically diverse demographic sort of in the entirety of Europe. So it sort of logically seems like a great place to put something like underscore, because of what such a rich and diverse culture the city has, but also all the places around it. But I think also just not only sort of numbers wise, but also just there's such a huge sort of difference in like the musical culture. There are, you can walk down. I walk down my street, and when people are having house parties, for example, the music you hear is completely different coming out of each house, and from different cultures and different countries and everything. And it was actually when I was putting together my first underscore concert, I went around all my friends and I said, right, I need you to tell me the piece that is like Come On Eileen to my nan and granddad, but for you. And lots of them did. And then I was sat in this room actually last week, and my next door neighbours were having a party, and one of the pieces started that I'd played with underscore got blasted out of the speakers from next door, and I could hear them like all singing it. I was like, oh yes, okay, that was actually a good decision because it was their equivalent of that piece. So I just think the fact that the West Midlands has that sort of that unique thing of sort of everyone from all different walks of life being all together in the same place, instead of there being sort of particular areas that only this type of person lives there. And obviously there are there are examples of that in the Midlands, like there is everywhere, but I think there's also such a rich diversity of culture that is all in everyone's next door to each other. And I think underscore is just a sort of reflection of that.
That's great. What is a piece that you hold close to your heart, that people could listen to, that might expand their kind of give a new opportunity, or something from maybe a global majority composer or performer, or which piece is close to your heart that you would love to share that is an amazing example of great music in that context?
Yes. This is actually the first piece I ever played with Chineke, which is William Grant Still's Afro-American Symphony. And each movement is completely different and takes different influences from sort of different parts of African American music, and sort of right back to sort of songs that were sung by slaves, all the way to sort of like 1960s jazz. And what's really interesting about that piece is that you can hear so many examples of how other composers have taken bits from that piece, or sort of that particular genre of music that's used in that particular movement into their own pieces. So for example, George Gershwin's I Got Rhythm, which is probably arguably one of his most famous tunes, is actually taken from William Grant Still's piece, from his symphony. And you can hear that sort of the main melody from I Got Rhythm is embedded in that piece. So it's a very sort of political yet sort of fun piece to listen to.
That's amazing. And where can people just find that on YouTube? Or
Yeah. I mean, it's on, like, if you've got Spotify, it's definitely on there, but it's also on YouTube, and it's on iTunes and all sorts.
Thank you so much, Bradley, for sharing your thoughts, perspectives, your journey. It's been an amazing hour or so chatting with you, and I really appreciate your time this afternoon. And we look forward to hearing much more about your next steps and the next steps of underscore. So do share that widely, and we hope to see the orchestra and yourself out there very, very soon. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.